What's up, everyone? I'm Doug Kyed, joined as always by Michael Hurley, and we are here to discuss the Patriots' overtime loss to the Seattle Seahawks. But first off, Michael, how are you doing?
Medium.
Medium. That's
How
a
are you doing?
good. That's about how the Patriots performed on Sunday as well.
That's
I would
right.
say
Yeah, there was some good.
there was
There
some
was some
good,
bad.
there was some bad. Overall, I think they were medium. All right, that'll do it
Let
for the
me
Pat
let
Start
me kick it
podcast.
off, Doug. Let me kick it off. What kind of podcast do you want to be? Because
Well, I
if
don't
you
want to be
want
a
to,
Matt Patricia podcast.
if you want to be a Let's Start Drake May podcast, I'm all for it. Like I'm ready.
Oh,
Like it's a matter of patience. That's I think where we're at because that was tough.
I have a take on that actually. I think. Um, The Patriots allowed 16 pressures on 33 dropbacks.
hmm
It's about half the dropbacks. And once again, was he perfect? No, but Jacoby Brissett overall did a pretty good job of evading pressure. Took 2 sacks. They weren't at the most opportune times. I think if Drake May is starting, he's taking more sacks. And he's probably throwing at least one interception behind that
Yeah,
offensive line. And
yeah.
he's not 245 pounds or whatever Jacoby Brissett
Mm,
is. He might be getting hurt too.
I don't disagree with you. And again, it is a matter of patience. It's still all the things I said before the season. Like it's still not a great situation for a rookie quarterback to be thrown into, but it's at the point where it's like if you physically can't throw the ball to the boundary or down the field, which are we there yet? Like 19 yards from wide receivers in an NFL game at home in 2024 is insane. It's insane. So
Yeah.
if this is what they're going to be with Jacoby Brissett, I don't know what the point is. And you might as well put an athlete in there and see what can happen because that was it was brutal.
It was brutal. So it was 19 yards today, right?
Yeah, you had Poke had 12
And Osborne
and
had 7.
Osborne had 7. Almost caught another one, so give him almost credit for that. The one fingertips on the sideline. Uh, Pop Douglas had 1 target,
0 targets.
no
0 targets.
targets, no targets. Excuse me.
And then
Uh,
and then they combined all for 66 yards in week 1. So overall, they've played 2 plus games of football, including
yes,
the overtime today. And they have the entire wide receiver core has not cracked the century mark. Hunter Henry has
century
considerably
mark,
more yards
Doug.
than everyone else.
66. That's one play for a good wide receiver.
56 for DK Metcalf on Sunday. So
Right.
yeah,
That's
they're at
yeah. It's a
yeah,
problem. It's
they've
it's
not quite
it's an
hit 100
issue.
yards.
Though let's give credit where it's due, Doug. Tyquan Thornton in the split back set with Ramondre Stevenson on third down. It really threw off the defense. They were like, might they hand it to the 7-pound man in the backfield on a straight run up the middle? Or will it go to Ramon? Oh, they guessed right. The chess match, as Jonathan Vilma would have said, was very impressive by the Seahawks on that one.
I think I was talking to Taylor Kyles, Brian Hines, and Alex Barth after the game, and I think it was Alex who said this. If you watch that play, if they had done like the fake handoff to Ramondre and then pitched it out to Taekwon, it probably would have picked up more yards. Might have even like gone to the house, but
Yeah, but they weren't
and
ever going to do that.
but it would have been a bonkers. Like if that hadn't worked, it would have been really wild. But I mean, and it wouldn't have mattered anyway because there was a penalty on the play because Kane Wallace didn't
Yeah,
declare
that's true.
eligible and he was uncovered on the line. So
That's true.
regardless of what happened on that play, nothing would have happened. But
It's funny because literally a snap or two before that, I rechecked the inactives. I was like, Thornton's dressed, right? And yeah, he's a fullback now.
yeah, I mean, as far as like a pro set offense goes, I think you could do better than Tyquan Thornton as your fullback on that that set. It did harken back to the days of the '90s when teams were still running pro set offenses, but I
That
don't
was a
think
big
there's
one. When I
any
played
180-pound fullbacks.
Madden on Sega, I feel
Oh
that
yeah,
was a popular one. It's been replaced. Well, I haven't played Madden in decades, but Full House was always like that. What it morphed into.
yeah. I don't know if there's a pro set offenses in Madden anymore, but definitely a popular set back in the '90s. I mean, we probably should. I don't know. I mean, like we started off on Drake
Let's hit our
May.
bullet points. You hit a bullet point. I'll hit a bullet point. Let's go. Let's ping pong here.
I did want to talk a little bit about the offensive line because I think it just sort of makes the passing game untenable. Like it's an unsustainable way to play offense when the offensive line is allowing pressure on, let's say, like nearly half of plays.
Let me jump in with a question to you, because again, you're the expert on this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm the schlub with a blank wall. I don't have a cool book. Um, why do you think Mike Onwenu was so bad today? Because like there's certain expectations along the line. I didn't expect Vidarian Lowe to play well. I expect Michael Jordan to have some issues. Onwenu stunk, and he's a good player. So that one was when you're kind of like, huh, what's going on there?
Yeah, I wish I had a great answer for that because usually
Damn it.
Michael Wenu is a very good player. But tonight he most certainly was not. I can tell you what the early PFF stats on Michael Wenu were. On 33 pass blocking snaps, he allowed 4 pressures, including a QB hit and 3 hurries. And this is before they do their whole review process or whatever. And before the review, he had the lowest pass blocking grade of any Patriots offensive lineman. Sometimes it can just be matchup based because an offensive lineman, like most right tackles, aren't 350 pounds. And Michael Wenu might struggle against guys who are, let's just say, like maybe a little bit quicker. I don't know the exact situation. Like, but you're right. He was bad. And the unfortunate thing is that prior to Saturday, I would say, maybe you could kick Michael Wenu over to right guard, move Layden Robinson to left guard, and then put, Chuks Okorafor at right tackle, but Chuks Okorafor left the team. He said, I'm out. I'm good.
Screw you
And he
guys.
left.
I'm going home.
Head coach Jerod Mayo did say today that we'll see what happens tomorrow. I'm not sure if that was like a slip of the tongue or I don't know what that was all about, but it would be kind of odd to leave the team and then decide to come back. But I think Michael Wenu is a better right guard than he is a tackle.
Yeah, well, I always thought he was a good tackle until today, so now I don't know anything anymore. But prescient by me, because I asked you about Okorafor the other day. I knew something was coming.
You should have told me
I sensed it.
that he was going to leave, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was an odd situation.
There was one play to your point about this is you started this bullet point about the O-line. There was a play, I tweeted it. I forget the exact scenario. It was a third down, I want to say, and both Onwenu and Michael Jordan just got completely beaten off the snap, and within 2 seconds, Brissett was trying to step out and under. It was an absolute gong show, and it's just to your point, yeah. As much as I started the show by being like, can we get an athlete in there? It really wouldn't matter most of the time
Yeah.
because it's ugly.
Yeah, and like Brissett, for all of his faults, like he does have some pretty good pocket presence in there. He is able to make a pressure into a throwaway or a completion. I'd say better than the quarterbacks that the Patriots have had since Tom Brady left.
Didn't love his
Um,
awareness on the first drive, though. Just didn't know a man was right behind him as he got sacked.
yeah,
He's like, I got
still
so much time here. Check this. Oh,
still no turnovers for the Patriots, which I think is a plus. But it's almost kind of scary that they haven't really made grave mistakes and they lost the game.
well,
Obviously, on defense there was the play
the busted coverage, yeah.
Christian Gonzalez and Kyle Duggar led up to DK Metcalf 56-yard touchdown that Kyle Duggar was just straight up with everyone being like, I called a max blitz. That was my bad, my fault. And what they're essentially doing on that play is like the defensive backs are watching the quarterback rather than necessarily like playing man-to-man coverage.
And then all of
They
a
both
sudden,
had their
there's a
eyes on Geno
huge
Smith.
man. Yeah.
DK Metcalf ran past them, and then Kyle Duggar was like, "Oh shit, I got to go follow him." And by that point, the guy runs a 4.3, and he's past them. Christian Gonzalez, though, I think he was. I don't think he wanted to blame Kyle Duggar. I don't think he wanted to give away the defensive play call, but his reaction to it was essentially like, "Yeah, miscommunication that happens. You learn from it. You move on." And like, I can understand not wanting to give away the game plan or giving away the play call or blaming Kyle Duggar, but in that game, like that can't happen. And when you're a
Right.
team that's not going to win many games and you let one kind of slip through your fingers, you can't allow the 56-yard touchdown to DK Metcalf because of miscommunication or bad play call, whatever it is. And like that was the difference. That was the difference in the game.
Riddle me this, Doug man. Can that be considered being like we look at the Tyquan Thornton play as like just being too cute?
Yeah.
Is it too cute to to really just not take your best corner off their best receiver? I know
A
you got
little
it.
bit.
You can't just play man. You got it. But in that case, we've seen teams with elite corners just stick them on their best receiver all game and then figure the rest out from there. It
I do
felt
think in that situation, Kyle Duggar or whoever ultimately decided to do that was being too cute. And they did say that they were practicing that all week, so that it's not as if like Kyle Duggar was like, yeah, let me call this crazy play and see what happens. Obviously, it didn't work out well, but in that situation, like the idea of letting one of their receivers run that far past you, and I mean, the Patriots are a decent pressure team. They sent 6 on the play. They didn't get to Geno Smith fast enough either. So that's a major factor in it as well. If they had gotten to Geno Smith faster, it wouldn't have been an issue. But in that situation, I would say they were probably being too cute.
okay. Well, I have my bullet point going off what you said, where it's scary that they didn't make any grave mistakes and still lost. I
Yeah.
think the blueprint to beat the Patriots is going to just be don't turn it over, because
Yeah, that's
the
fair.
Patriots still, I mean, they were the extreme of that the past couple years, but they still seem like a team that without a turnover, like without winning the turnover margin, it's going to be really hard for them to win games. And that's why they squeaked by Cincinnati. And that's what they needed today.
Yeah.
All game, you're like, well, if they can get a pick here, if they get a bounce off a helmet and they can pick it off, they'll probably be all right. So I feel like that's sort of a reality check, I think, on where they are. And for as much as we're gonna kill them on some points today, it's like that is still kind of their ceiling this year. It's like without the other team goofing, it's gonna be hard for them to actually straight up win.
Yeah. And I think I mean, obviously we're talking about the Seahawks game right now, but that's a great point for this
Thank you.
upcoming week against the Jets, too, is that Aaron Rodgers does not turn the ball over. Um, some connection here.
Is that me or you?
Apologies.
Who can we blame?
I think it's me, but I think I've got it fixed.
All right.
We good now?
I can hear you. I can see you. You're a little fuzzy, but
Okay.
I can see you.
We'll try to fix this. And so I think ultimately that's going to be a bad thing against the Jets next week because Aaron Rodgers does not typically turn the ball over. He is tied with Jacoby Brissett for having the lowest career interception rate. And I think it's a little bit more legitimate on Aaron Rodgers' part since he's thrown a lot more career passes than Jacoby Brissett has. So I don't think they'll be able to turn the ball over against the Jets. I think that's probably going to be another loss for the Patriots. We'll see what happens next week. But yeah, I think that's a major issue. And they should be able to generate turnovers. You'd think that you should be able to generate turnovers against Geno Smith. You think you should be able to beat a Seahawks team without their starting running back. But really, everything's going to have to fall the Patriots' way this season because they just are not overly that talented, especially on offense.
I had red zone on the side screen today, and the Jets were flirting with a loss so bad.
Yeah.
I was like, if you get 2-0 Patriots versus 0-2 Jets on Thursday Night Football, that's a storyline none of us saw coming. But alas, you've got 2 1-1 teams, and I don't think we really love the Patriots on a short week going in there. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. But no, and they did kind of get lucky on that Stevenson fumble too. Like that would have been
Yeah.
their grave mistake. And
Two in a
I
row,
don't know.
2 games in a row.
I would argue their grave mistake was how they handled the pre-halftime drive at their own 8-yard line with a minute left. That, I think, is where you just gave the other team 3 points. You didn't force them to do anything. You ran it on first down. You brought the clock down under a minute. Incompletion, punt. They had all 3 timeouts. You were so far backed up. You got to know what you are. You've got to
Yeah.
know that you are not a team that's going to drive 90 yards or even 60 yards in a minute and a half. And when you run it up the gut on first down and get 2 yards, that's your sign to run the ball and force them to use 2 timeouts, and then you punt because you're not going anywhere. It's that to me was they were aggressive. That's an unnecessarily aggressive approach, and it killed them. And do you want to go high tech and play the sound?
Sure. You,
Because
you want me to play some sound though?
I mean, if we're going to say, oh, Jerod Mayo is different than Bill, let's hear what he said when he's asked about it.
Just curious, end of the first half, and you guys had the ball. You ended up running one, then taking some time off the clock, throwing a couple. Is there anything you would have done differently in that scenario to maybe try to prevent them from being able to drive the other way?
Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, I'm going to go back and watch the game. There were a lot of plays in the game, and I don't want to give you bad information.
That's not what the question was. It wasn't anything about information. It was just, do you wish you did something different? Like what was the thought process there? So I don't know if that's Mayo. I don't know if it's Van Pelt, but the operation before halftime was a cluster, and it allowed Seattle to get a field goal in a game where every point mattered.
Yeah, and it could be Evan Rothstein as well. He's kind of the new Ernie, I believe, who's up in the booth on the headset with Alex Van Pelt, Jerod Mayo, and the defense. That was not great. And then I would almost say that they didn't really learn from it either, because at the end of the game, they had the ball at the end of the game, and it was pretty clear at that point that they were not going to be scoring a touchdown before overtime. But they actually wound up giving the ball back to the Seahawks again, and the Seahawks had a timeout with 15 seconds left. They had quite a long field to go, but like, what if the Seahawks at that point decide, like, all right, we're going to throw a deep ball down the sideline, try to get chunk yardage, or throw the ball in the middle, call your timeout, then throw toward the sideline, get within like a 50-yard field goal, 56-yard field goal, whatever it is, kick it, then you lose the game. I think that in that situation, if you know that you're not going to be competitive with the ball, just let it go towards the end of the half and don't even give them the opportunity to score at the end.
Right. And if I have this right, I have a note. I'm trying to piece it together in my broken brain. I believe it was that drive you're talking about. Jalen Pope caught his second pass of the day. It was a 7-yarder up the left sideline. And he started mean mugging the Seattle sideline as the clock was running. And they had no plan. They like sort of muddle huddled. They ran a bad play after that. And it was just like, the operation was ugly, and you set yourself up to lose in a game-winning drive scenario. This was before that, because then they gave it back, and then they had to defend to get the ball back in the first place. But it was in the fourth. Like there was just no. The operation was not smooth offensively, and it's hard to see that offense driving to win a game.
Yeah, the drive that we're both talking about was 55 seconds left in the game. Score was tied 20-20. Brissett threw a short incomplete pass to Ramondre Stevenson when he was hit by Leonard Williams. Then he threw the 7-yarder to Jalen Polk, and then he threw another short incompletion to Hunter Henry, which meant that they were punting away at the 26-yard line, and the Seahawks had a timeout. With 26 seconds to go, Seahawks got the ball back at their own 24, but once again, 15 seconds left with a timeout.
Yeah.
Do they think they're going to do something? No, probably not. But like, what if they do? What if they throw it to DK Metcalf and they win the game? And like, just run the ball in that situation.
Yeah.
Once you know that nothing's going to happen.
Seattle probably should have chucked it downfield and hoped for pass interference at least. Like
that too, because they already got 2 of them on Marco Wilson and on Jonathan Jones.
And I wanted to, wag my finger at Marco. Everyone's talking about the Jonathan Jones one, which was obvious. I thought the Marco Wilson one was like offensive pass interference to the T, but just the way that Lockett is so, like, the way, you know how good Brandon Cooks was at drawing pass interference?
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's a skill. Like the way Lockett grabbed Wilson and then flung himself off and went down, like it looked like obvious DPI. And then you watch the replay, like, man, he is talented at that. But yeah, they probably could have lost it in regulation. Not that it would have made a difference.
I think Patriots fans could potentially have a complaint about that Marco Wilson one, that the ball was very clearly not catchable.
No,
but
listen,
then the Seahawks got a penalty for defensive pass interference on another uncatchable ball. So it was a wash at that point. Yeah.
That pass was like already on the ground. So I guess that's why that was Douglas. I thought that was a target, but obviously it didn't count. But you can search on Twitter, search from Michael F. Hurley, and then write uncatchable, and you will find a decade of me bitching about the fact that it's not a real word in the NFL. Like, the ball could be on another field, and they'd be like, no, pass interference. So as uncatchable as both were, it's just a fake word that doesn't really mean anything anymore. But I don't know. Well, I don't want to do a ref thing because I really don't think it was as big a factor as the internet seems. It was just a bad call on Jonathan Jones, obviously.
Right.
I don't know.
And I mean, but you can't leave a game that close and up to that. It was a bad call. Tyler Lockett even said it was a bad call.
It was first
It seems like
down.
the Patriots believed that there was contact on both sides and that usually that's just not called. So it was a tough time to call that. I'm still not convinced that the Seahawks don't still drive down the field in that situation.
That's how I feel. That's why it was first down. It
Yeah.
wasn't third down. It was the Seahawks had kind of cracked the code that like the underneath passing game was there. Like the quick
Yeah.
game was just really working. Like that they made 2 adjustments and the Patriots didn't. They put Love on Hunter Henry,
Yeah.
and that stopped Hunter Henry from having the game of his life. And they started just passing underneath and passing short and quick and getting what they needed. And so, yeah, that was a bad call. But again, to your point, it was 1st and 10 at their own 31.
Yeah.
I didn't really doubt that they were going to drive to win the game, but maybe
No.
we're idiots.
And I mean, there was also, so then after that, completed a 4-yard pass to Smith and Jigba, 7-yarder to Charbonnet, and a 16-yarder to Lockett. So, like, it's not as if they were able to shut them down
Yes.
after that play.
It's not like they stopped at the 31 and then kicked a 50-something yarder.
Right. Yeah. They gained more yards than necessary. They were very confident that they could continue to move the ball. And I do think it was a pretty disappointing performance overall, I'd say, from the Patriots coverage, like cornerbacks, defenders in general.
228 yards from the receivers.
Yeah, I mean, like Marcus Jones, I'm looking at the PFF stats once again before review. They've got Marcus Jones allowing 63 yards, Jelani Tavai allowing 69, Kyle Duggar with 85. They charged him with the DK Metcalf touchdown. Christian Gonzalez with only 31, so decent performance from Gonzalez. But like the Seahawks were just intent to throw to Jackson Smith and Jigba on basically like every single play.
He had 16 targets.
That was a matchup that I was worried about coming into the game. I think I mentioned it because you just don't fully trust Marcus Jones yet. Smith and Jigba, very talented player, taller than Marcus Jones, and they just felt very confident in that matchup all game. Had a 100-yard game, looked like a good receiver out there. you know, one that the Patriots could use.
I was more worried about Bobo going in.
Well, that's because you are a Bobo. You're a Bobo.
Who's going to cover Bobo? I am a Bobo. No, I actually was more worried about Tyler Lockett, who had 2 catches for 15 yards, but
You're a Lockett Bobo. Drew
the game-altering pass interference penalties. So credit to
him. I want to talk about Demario Douglas. He's a undersized wide receiver for the Patriots. Had about 500 receiving yards last year. Not a part of the game plan this year, apparently.
He's a Patriot.
Yeah, and he looked really good during the summer. I was pretty dumb and thought that he was going to have a huge year because the offense looked considerably better when he was on the field. And this is another, I was talking to Taylor Kyles, Brian Hines, Alex Barth after the game. And Brian Hines mentioned this, and it was something that caught my attention at the time, that every time that Jacoby Brissett would be asked about Demario Douglas in training camp this year, he would say, oh yeah, he's really quick, adds an explosive element to the offense. I have to get used to throwing a wide receiver that small. I have to get used to throwing someone that short. And I was like, at the time being like, that's kind of a weird thing to say. Like, aren't there a lot of shorter wide receivers out there? Maybe it was just me being stupid and covering the Patriots for so many years when they've had Amendola and Welker and Edelman, all these shorter guys. But he said it a few times. And I think it was Brian Hines who said today, like, what if he just like isn't seeing him? What if he's just not used to throwing to a small wide receiver and he just like, that's not going to be compatible. I think it is going to be compatible once Drake May is in there, but what if this is more of a Jacoby Brissett problem than it is an Alex Van Pelt problem or Demario Douglas problem? I would say there's still ways to get him the ball, like call a screen for him. Let's say on the play that they decide to run an end around to Jalen Polk, maybe give that to Demario Douglas rather than the wide receiver runs a 4-5-2. Like there are other ways to manufacture plays for Demario Douglas, but on a play-to-play basis, maybe that connection just still isn't there between Brissett and Douglas.
Yeah, would you say it might be a Jacoby Brissett problem?
Yeah.
I think it might be one of many Jacoby Brissett problems. And it might be multiple Jacoby Brissett problems wrapped into one. It could be the connection, the chemistry, not seeing him. It could be the fact that he doesn't really throw the ball all that well. He doesn't really see the field all that well. There's a reason I said going in. Well, you said reason to feel good about the Patriots. I was like, I don't know. The tight ends looked all right because I think that is sort of the extent of Brissett's field vision.
Right. Yeah.
So, the touchdown was nice. Brissett looked good for the first couple drives, minus the second and third drive. He was what, 7 for 7 on that second drive or something like that. He started great.
He started off like 7 for 7, and then it like dipped immediately after that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, he played like a rookie. How many times have you seen like a rookie come in and have a good scripted series and then poop the rest of the way? But yeah, I don't know. I'd have to break down the film, which I'm going to leave to you. So let me know what they show. What it shows, are these guys open? I actually will probably check it out because it's important to distinguish where the issues are. Like if these guys we've seen years where guys just aren't open, where you're there and you're in the press box and you're like, I don't really know. Like in 2019, it's like, I don't really know. Like there's a reason Tom Brady threw that ball to the front row of the stands because there was nowhere to go with it. I will be interested to see what's going on out there because if they are open, if they are getting some separation, or if it's just a man under fire behind the line, which we know is the case half the time, let's see, because I'm probably being a little unfair to just put it on quarterback because you could put anyone in there. It's going to be a tough job one way or the other.
Yeah, and I mean, overall, like I said before, 33 dropbacks, 16 pressures. Brissett only took 2 sacks. But on the first sack that he took, I think that you could probably time the time to sack, like the amount of time it took the sack on like a sundial, because he held that ball for probably upwards of like 6-7 seconds, somewhere like that.
He was like, oh man, I'm going to run right. Yeah, okay. I'm going to make a good pass here. Let me just get my feet set. What? Other people are playing?
You would think probably a coverage sack, maybe no one open, but I want to see if there was anyone open on that play and if he could have found someone in a shorter amount of time, because
now do the second sack.
The second sack, what was the second?
Third down. It was after
3rd and 6.
You were at the the yard line. It turned a 39-yard field goal into a 48-yard field goal.
Which was blocked.
Then it got blocked, and that's a factor on a 48-yard field goal. The trajectory changes. Now, granted, they didn't block the man, but maybe that's butterfly effect. You want a shorter field goal. There's no reason to take a sack there. The one thing you can't do is take a sack, and that wasn't sundial level, but it wasn't one where the ball was snapped and he's running for his life. He was in the pocket, he scanned, and he got frozen, and he took the sack. It was bad.
Yeah, and I mean, he's kind of in the pocket there. If he throws it away, it's going to be intentional grounding. But
can he throw it all the way out of bounds from there?
That's a good question too. For everyone who is watching right now, make sure to subscribe to the Pat's Chat podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Look it up, do all those things. Even give us a rating, a review, whatever you want to do. You can find it on YouTube as well. I just want to promote us real quick for people who are watching live. But yeah, that was a big play, and maybe I'm just being overly negative right now. Maybe I'm being realistic. Who knows? If they kick the field goal there, if he doesn't take that sack and they go up by 6, what are the chances there, though, that the Seahawks still drive down the field and get a touchdown?
Fair.
Lesser.
Yeah, they're fair. It's not like it wins the game, but I still like the Patriots defense, even though they had a number of issues today. Like I still don't love Geno Smith on the road in a gotta have it situation. And he had multiple drives toward the end where they didn't get it done. So it's not a guaranteed win, but it's similar to how I feel about the pass interference not really changing things. I feel like that would have been enough.
Yeah. Do you think they should have run the ball on that 3rd and 6 to ensure that they could get the field goal?
Yes.
It's fair. I would say still you should have enough faith in your quarterback to convert a 3rd and 6 to potentially win the game rather than run to ensure a field goal. But
if you're a running team, what does Jerod Mayo say? We are a running team. We are a running team.
Got to stop us.
That drive. I'm bringing it up. When was that? All right, here we go. Ready?
They ran like 10 plays in a row.
That drive. Gibson, 3 yards. By the way, important timeout. Running backs should not be allowed to wear number 4.
Really?
It's horrible looking. Like, what are
Oh,
we
I don't mind a
doing?
running back in 4.
Oh, it started. The first play, he catches the ball in the flat. I'm like, can't have it. Can't have it. Anyway, all right, Gibson, 3 yards. Gibson, 9 yards. Gibson, loss of 2. Gibson, 45 yards. So now you're down to 25. Stevenson, 2 yards. Stevenson, 2 yards. I'd have gone ahead and give Stevenson 2 more yards. You would have been at the 21. You kick your field goal. Like, it's again, knowing what you are. Before halftime, you're like, oh, yeah, we got Tom Brady back there. We'll go 5 wide. We'll drive 90 yards in a minute. It'll be a piece of cake. No, you're not. You can't do that. This 3rd and 6, or was it 3rd and 6 at the 21, a tight game where every point matters, and you're like, let's put it in Jacoby's hands. He's been crushing it the past 5 drives. He hasn't gone 3 and out a bunch of times. This is going to do it. Like, you just have to have a reality check and play within yourself. And they're kind of lost. Like, know your identity, lean into it. You would have won the game today if you followed Jerod Mayo's lead that you're a running team.
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett, 15 of 27, 149 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Running backs, or running game in general, 36 carries, 185 yards, 5.1 per carry, 1 touchdown. Let's get into ups and downs while we're talking about the running game. And since we are talking about the running game, my first up would be Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson had 11 carries, 96 yards, had that 45-yard. It was kind of a toss that he took in the middle, really carved through the Seahawks defense.
Broke
and I
2
thought
tackles.
that this was an important performance for Antonio Gibson, because in week 1, Antonio Gibson did not look like a suitable backup behind Ramondre Stevenson, but he was dealing with that hip injury prior to week 1, which I think could have potentially affected his performance. In this one, you have to feel very confident about Ramondre Stevenson's backup, because there were definitely times that Antonio Gibson looked like the better running back there for the Patriots. And to just have that behind Stevenson so that you're not overloading Stevenson right now is so immense, because Ramondre Stevenson is on pace for over 400 touches this season, which when you just signed a guy to a 4-year contract, you don't want to give him 400 plus touches
in a year where you might win 5 games.
Right, absolutely. And just having Gibson, like even maybe mixing in JaMychal Hasty at times, Kevin Harris at times, it's going to be valuable. And I would even be a little bit concerned right now with Ramondre Stevenson, who's had 21 carries for 81 yards, caught 2 more passes on 5 targets for 9 yards. That's 23 touches, and he's going to play another football game in like 3 days. Like the Patriots play the Jets on Thursday night. I guess it's 4 days. But still, like if you add now another 20 to 25 touches on top of that, at a certain point, you're going to run this guy into the ground. And you can't do that, as you mentioned, in a losing season when you've just signed into a contract extension. So I would even maybe push that ratio between Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson a little bit tighter, a little bit closer, give Gibson even more touches, especially after how good he looked in this game.
All right. I'm with you. Well said. I have nothing to add. I thought he ran well, except for his number needs to change. Give him another. 4? You like 4? You're a big numbers guy. You like 4 in a running back?
Corey Dillon was number 4 at the University of Washington, so maybe I'm biased. Maybe it's
1950 when he played there. different sport, Doug.
It's 1996, but it's true. I actually talked to Antonio Gibson about his number this week, and he's
now you're gonna be like,
happier
it's
with
to
4 than
honor.
21.
You're gonna be like, oh, it's to honor some loved one who died, and now I'm a jerk.
No, he actually said that he was 4 in high school, but he wanted to have either 4 or 24 in college. It wasn't available, and then he wanted 24 this year too. And he didn't think it was available, but Del Pettis switched to 24 at the same time that he switched to 4. So would you feel better about him in 24?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fair. 24 is a good number.
I like it as a cornerback number.
It is a better cornerback number, but you have to be like a really good cornerback to wear it, especially on the Patriots.
Right. Who's the best 24 running back?
Oh, that's a really good question.
I don't know that I can think of one.
I don't think I can think of a great one off the top of my head, because that's a Revis number. It's Ty Law. It's Stephon Gilmore. You're buzzing. You're done buzzing.
Oh boy.
You're buzzing again.
We're a mess, Doug. I'm just gonna squeeze this thing. I'm gonna ingest the electricity into my body.
I just Googled
time
top
for a new
running
mic.
back to wear 24,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not seeing many. Was Marshawn Lynch 24? Yeah, Marshawn Lynch.
Good answer.
There we go.
I bet someone listening was screaming that whole time, Marshawn Lynch. So we got
Marshawn
there.
Lynch.
That's a little
Ironic.
that's
They
a
just
little
put big-
ratings trick.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah, it
oh,
is.
who's the best quarterback in Patriots history to wear 12?
I can't think of one.
Yeah, little
Yeah.
trick. You doing ups and downs? Go ahead. Who else you got?
Number 2, Mr. Hunter Henry. He
Good first
played
half.
career high with 109 receiving yards, second career 100-yard performance, 8 catches on 12 targets. But as you mentioned, almost all of that did come in the first half. He at one point had more than 4 times as many receiving yards as every other member of the Patriots combined. I think he probably finished maybe like 3 times as many receiving yards. But still, like, yes, the Seahawks probably should have done a better job of covering him in the first half, but that also can't be your only receiving option, which really showed through in the second half when they took him out by putting Julian Love on him, like you mentioned, and then there was no one open, or there was no one that Jacoby Brissett could find.
Do you know what was cool? The 35-yard tight end screen. You don't see
That
the
was
tight
cool.
ends. You don't see the tight end screen too often. That was sweet.
No.
It was like a
Well-
fake left, and he was just hanging out there, and it worked. That's a play probably shouldn't work, but it worked for 35 yards.
He also should have had even more yards in this game on the play when he kind of leaked out into the field. Jacoby Brissett, if he could have just set his feet and thrown it to him, it probably would have had a touchdown. But unfortunately, Jacoby Brissett had 4 human beings running at him at the same time. He was pressured by 4 Seahawks, so he couldn't do that. And it was a minor miracle that he even got the ball off for an 11-yard gain.
Yeah,
Which
I
is why I don't want to be that negative about Jacoby Brissett, because that's it. It was a really bad situation that he was in, and he made a decent play out of it.
And I don't like saying it, but I think he's going to tear his knee because it happened in the preseason and it happened twice today where he's completely wrapped up and he's like, I'm going to uncork this thing. And it's like, dude, the torque on that knee, and you never know if someone comes over the top.
It's true.
It's just a frightening thing. Like, he was banged up today.
Yeah,
and
he was slow to get up on. It was the last sack, right?
No, it was an incompletion. Well, not the sack. No, because the sack. Well, maybe he was slow. Yes, the sack. I'm sorry. This is another one I tweeted. I think he got rid of it. I think he got rid of the ball. It was like the under 2 second.
Yeah.
But it was he's wrapped up at the knees.
You're right.
Someone else is at his shoulder, and he just fully uncorks, and it's like, dude, be careful because it ain't worth it.
No, but Hunter Henry overall good performance. You
also
need
had a
more
drop.
out of Hunter Henry. What was that?
He had a drop too on the sideline. Way to go. Way to let everyone down, Hunter.
If you can get 109 yards, God, talk about drops. The Seahawks had 5 of them in that game.
The best one though was Noah Fant running to the right, ball perfect, laid right on him, dropped it, it hit his hands, and then he just put his hands down and turned upfield like he was blocking for himself. He went into lead blocker mode, forgetting that he was going to be the ball carrier. It was not a good play.
It's a Madden glitch right there.
It really was.
And number 3 for me is Mr. Keon White. Keon White had a sack. He caused another sack. Jabril Peppers and Anthony Jennings officially had the sack, but
I think they changed that, by the way, because that's what it initially said, right? And then I looked later, and they had a split sack between Keon White and
and Daniel Aquale.
Yeah. It did not say that when it happened.
No.
For sure.
That is fascinating. So he now has 4 total sacks on the season, but that includes 2 half sacks. So it's kind of more like 3 sacks and 2 half sacks.
He had 1.5 today, right?
He had 1.5 today, had 2.5 last Sunday.
The second one was great because it was like Geno Smith was like, oh, this guy's just got my ankle. I'm going to get away. And he didn't know it was Keon White, who was just like, no. It was amazing.
Keon White also 9 total pressures per PFF before their, like I said, before their and review or whatever, but that definitely led the team. Josh Uche, they also had down for 4. Jabril Peppers down for 3 pressures, which is a lot for a safety, and a bunch of guys with 2. So the Patriots pressured Geno Smith pretty well in this game, but they only wound up with the 2 sacks. And
I just rewatched. I don't know why they gave him the sack. Like, it was all him, but he didn't.
Yeah, he
really
didn't
sack him.
actually tackle him.
He got a hand on him, and
Yeah.
maybe they're saying that punch to the shoulder pad started the sack process, and then Aquale cleaned it up. But it's weird that it's definitely said Jennings and Peppers.
It was
right?
announced that way too. Yeah, it was announced with them. That's strange. I mean, he deserved it. He earned it. So good for him. Looks like they've got a budding superstar on their hands in Keon White. There's not, I guess, a whole lot more you can say about it. But
I would say this, Doug. If anyone wants to do the referee thing and wants to be creative, because the PI thing's kind of like bleh, I'm pretty sure Keon White was held every single play on that drive because he was getting through.
Yeah.
And he looked like he was getting held. I didn't break down the minutia of the hand play, but he sure looked like he was getting held a lot. So try that instead, because you got a better case.
Absolutely. 3 downs. We've already talked a lot.
Hold on. Intermission between your ups and downs.
Oh yeah.
We're doing I'm just doing gripes. One was the running back wearing 4. Another is Smith and Jigba had a drop on a pass toward the left sideline where he was like spun around and went to catch it, and everyone was blaming him. And I just wanted to note that the Brady pass to Welker was catchable in the Super Bowl. People still say it was a bad pass. I mean, it wasn't a good pass, but
it wasn't a good pass.
Guys catch that all the time. So when Smith and Jigba didn't catch it, everyone's like, "Whoa, got to catch that." Just wanted to say,
who was your favorite guy who came back for the Super Bowl reunion?
Well, I'll tell you. How about I change your question? Just say, how do you feel about the bell ringing? Because it's kind of goofy. He's
really ringing that bell.
And it's like it dawned on me because he's playing along. He's trying to get the crowd pumped up. It's like you can't, like, a lot of hockey arenas and places, like, you bang the drum.
Right.
I think the Chiefs do it. You bang the drum. It's like you look cool banging the drum or smashing a gong. The bell, it just doesn't quite do it for me. But I guess I'm going to go with Jonas Gray. How's that?
Jonas Gray is a good answer. Silver Salinga was the one holding the trophy for a long time.
Of course.
Didn't expect to see Akeem Ayers out there.
It was either him or Jonathan Casillas wrote an article for like the Players Tribune after about like how I won the Super Bowl for the Patriots. And it was like, I made the tackle before the Butler play. And it's like, I mean, Hightower did 95% of it, and you just were kind of there after. But who am I to get in the way of your parade?
Yeah, not exactly a star-studded reunion. But Rob Gronkowski, Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola all sent in messages. Tom Brady did not. Bill Belichick posted on Instagram, which would have been a really weird sentence to say a year ago, but it happened.
I have to recommend a great piece of internet culture for everyone out there, and you included. Someone spliced together Belichick's first Instagram video with Alan's speech from The Hangover, and it's incredible. That's all. Just Google it; you'll find it.
That's great. And yeah, Tom Brady, no message. Which, I mean, he's a busy guy, but
he's focused on. He wasn't really national today. He had the Cowboys game, so the tweets weren't flowing, the articles weren't pumping out, so he kind of got a week off from getting roasted.
Someone said he was doing a better job anyway. I'll probably won't be reviewing the film on that one. But
see, back when I used to sit in an office all day, I'd throw that on and check it out, but
just
no more.
No, you talk for a living now. You can't talk and listen at the same time.
It's impossible. All right, now to your downs.
My downs, I think we've talked about all of them, but Marco Wilson being charged for defensive pass interference 2 weeks in a row.
I let him off the hook.
I think that at a certain point, like, it's tough because you don't want Jonathan Jones to get hurt. So I think that you do want to rotate him out from the field a few times. Maybe you start putting Alex Austin there. Maybe you put a different option there. Maybe you don't use Marco Wilson after you had pass interference 2 weeks in a row, but we'll see what they do there moving forward. And then the other ones are just kind of broadly the offensive line and the wide receivers.
I'm going to add one.
Yes.
Jerod Mayo. Because the operation wasn't clean.
Yeah.
And we talked about before halftime. We talked about the sack on third down. I'd throw in they burned a timeout on the third play of the second half
Of
on
the second half,
defense.
not great. Yeah.
They burned another timeout after the Stevenson fumble. The play clock didn't reset, but they were asking for it to reset and it didn't reset. You got to you got to run the play. Like the operation was. So let's say you're the head coach of a team and your team fumbles and they're scrambling. You're not sure who's going to get it. There's only two outcomes. One is you recovered it and now it's third down. The other is that you didn't recover it and you're going to send your defense onto the field.
Right.
To not be like, all right, hey, if we got this, get your play in.
Right.
There's
Just
an
make
operation.
sure.
Yeah, there's an operation issue. And
make sure that you're not going to mess that one up and that they're not going to wind up with the ball somehow.
And now timeouts they didn't really factor in toward the end of the game, but you didn't know that at the time that you wasted two. And that's second half timeouts, which I factor much more significantly than first half timeouts. So not a great showing, maybe a learning experience, and maybe we expected some of that.
Yeah. I think that you expect that. And they weren't like catastrophic errors, but I would say that, it wasn't the greatest game operation. Clock management can be challenged, can be contested. I don't think it's necessarily the top reason why they lost this game, but it also didn't necessarily help them. And I really, like I said, did not love them giving the Seahawks the ball back, even with 15 seconds at the end of that game with the way things were going. I did have one final thought on the whole bell ringing thing. Anything that's going to be introduced post Brady is probably just going to be looked at as like cheesy and not something that fans will fully get behind,
I didn't even think it was cheesy. There's just something sort of like anticlimactic about ringing the bell.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. It's a cool lighthouse, though. It's the largest one in the United States, they said in the broadcast. By the way, you missed out on a humdinger of a broadcast. It was bad. It was real bad. Jerod Mayo is the head coach of the Patriots, if you know. I have another topic.
I think people should pronounce names correctly.
There's no R before the D.
No. And
It's
there's
Jerod.
still human beings who cover the Patriots in or around New England who think that Dante Hightower's first name is pronounced Donta. Like, how many times do you have to hear a name pronounced correctly to understand how it's pronounced? There's also one more. I see a lot of tweets with Patriots fans thinking that their quarterback's last name is Brisket.
Really?
His last name is not Brisket.
Isn't that like an insult? Are they trying to make a joke or something?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, I know you pretty well, and I know literally your Twitter profile. I don't know if it still does. Says like rhymes with died.
Yeah.
I still want to say Kyed. I don't know. It's just what the brain wants. I like to think I don't say it.
You might still. It's okay.
Maybe
I'm sensitive about this.
Yeah, it might be personal, and rightfully so. It's you explain how to pronounce it.
Douche Kyed. There are sometimes if I just at Starbucks or something and say that my name is Doug, they spell it Dough. I'm just like, how do you do that?
That would go Dug. Anyways, I was on the verge of an admission, and I feel like we don't say these things out loud. We don't tweet them because you're an idiot. You don't know ball. Can we admit that we don't know what offensive pass interference is when it comes to pick plays? Because there was a play, it was in the first half. It went to Smith and Jigba for 19 yards, and I think it was Fant, just an enormous body. It was a trips formation, and Fant was the front guy, and he just went out and just completely picked. I think it was Marcus Jones, and Vilma was on the broadcast, and he goes, "Yeah, you see here, it's the pick route that frees Marcus Jones has no chance of getting around him. Great job by Fant there." And I was just like, I've seen that called offensive pass interference 70% of the time.
Right.
And now I'm hearing the color commentator be like, great job doing that. And it's just sort of like, it's okay to admit, right, that it's just sort of, you just got to wait and see if they call it, because the rules.
Yeah, because it should be, if it's downfield, then it's pass interference. And if the ball's not in the air, then it would be illegal contact. So it would be something.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty significant, and we know what the rules are, and we know what we say, like, oh no, that is or isn't. There's times where you're just like, is there a rule, or is it sort of like we don't really feel like it?
I feel like officials sometimes just forget that offensive pass interference exists. He's like, there's a lot of times that wide receivers push off and then just like, nah,
Yeah.
we're not going to call that.
The other thing is like sometimes it is incidental. Like you run a slant right into the middle of the field and you collide and you can tell.
Yeah.
This was not that. This was, I'm going to run there. I'm going to body you and knock you out. And Marcus Jones is like 7 pounds. So he was like helicoptering away from the man. I thought it was OPI, but maybe I don't know the sport.
We are going to get out of here relatively quickly. But final thoughts on this game. I think that my final thoughts are just that this game really showed that there's like no room whatsoever for error for the Patriots this season, and that they're going to be outmanned by most teams that they face. And unless they play a perfect game, they're probably going to lose them. And like, this was a game the Patriots should have won. They were leading 2017 with, I think, less than 5 minutes left in the game. And their defense is supposed to be their strength. And the defense allowed the Seahawks to score twice to end the fourth quarter. And then once again in overtime. And if your offense is going to have as trouble passing the ball as the Patriots have, then you can't also be giving up big plays on defense. You can't be allowing teams to charge down the field. They've prided themselves on their conditioning and take them to the hill and all these mantras and everything like that.
I am glad we don't have to hear that this week.
And you know, me too. I like, you can't base that off one game. That can't be like a rallying cry after one game.
We took him to the hill, baby.
I'm gonna see at least 2 more wins now before I hear take them to the hill again.
There's some mistaking.
This was a take them to the hill game that they didn't win.
I remember the 2016 Patriots thought they won the Super Bowl over the Falcons because they did all those hills in the summer. And I'm like, I don't think it lasts that long. I think you've got to keep yourself in good shape throughout. There's some athletes on the other side of the field. I don't know, but no, you're right.
It would be great if working out did last that long.
You just work really hard for a summer and then you're good until February.
I'm in good shape still. Just been eating chips for 6 months.
So I don't know. Mayo's probably just continuing a long line of myth making with that stupid hill. But anyways,
but no, we don't have to hear about it anymore, which is good.
Yeah, that was just us being grumpy. I don't know what to tell you. It was. You're right. I guess, is that a good thing? Like, were there any games last year or the year before? Like look at the Raiders game 2 years ago when Jacoby Myers threw the ball away. They should have maybe won that game. They were up 7 with like 2 minutes left, and they got absolutely torn apart by Derek Carr. At no point we were like, they should have won that game. So I think it's a positive that you now look at this team and think they're good enough to win when they're leading in the fourth quarter, which is the lowest bar to clear, I think, for a team being relevant. But there were games in the past couple of years where they'd be up 7-10 points with 10 minutes left, and you're like, well, they're going to lose. Let's see how. Now, I was a little surprised, might not be the right word, but I kind of thought they were going to pull it off, and they didn't, which is indicative of a level of respect that we haven't had in a couple of years, I think.
I mean, it's going to be a fun season if they're even able to keep these games close. It's going to be much more fun than last year, and we'll see if this continues. I do think that, like, Vidarian Lowe left that game, which left them with Caden Wallace at left tackle. Like, if there's more injuries along this offensive line, I think there will be a point in the season where they're not keeping these games close anymore, which won't be ideal. But I mean, just the quarterback play in general, I've harped on it a lot. They don't have a quarterback handing the game to the opposing team, which is a big upgrade from the past. I think that plays a major part in these games feeling winnable. Like, when you're not throwing 3 interceptions in one quarter, a game is inherently going to feel a lot more winnable.
They were really down deep the past couple of years, because what you just said is like, oof, that's all we're looking at. So yeah, I mean, 2-0 would have been cool. Thursday, more winnable than I think we thought going into the year. We kind of chalked that up as a loss. The Jets didn't look great today. They lost. I don't know how significant. I mean, Jermaine Johnson seemed to tear his Achilles. That seemed pretty obvious. And CJ Mosley
got hurt. I think DJ Reed didn't play that game also.
Yeah, so I mean, Thursday is going to be interesting. More interesting than I think we gave it credit for going in. I still probably take the Jets. Now, our predictions for this game, we had the best predictions of all, Doug. Close game. Patriots probably lose just kind of because.
Mm-hmm.
Nailed it. So I'm going to say Thursday night close game Patriots win just kind of because.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Thursday night. I think the Jets probably win by like 7.
13-6.
13. I think the Patriots are able to score. So I don't know, like 24-17 maybe.
I want Drake May.
I have an idea for the Patriots in this game against the Jets. That's that I believe that they should target Demario Douglas in this game. I think you should
But
find at least one target for Demario Douglas. I know they did target it once, and it was defensive pass interference.
He's hard to find, though.
It doesn't count. I implore Jacoby Brissett
to look at him
look
first.
down, to put his eyes close to the ground, direct them downwards, find Demario Douglas, because Demario Douglas is a good football player. He can get open. He can make plays after the catch, and he might be closer to the ground than other wide receivers. He might be kind of below the offensive line, but I would even maybe guess where he is. I think the offense might have more success if you just simply guess where Demario Douglas could be on a play and that you would throw in that spot.
Let me step in. One great thing about football is usually they have what they call plays. And with the play, everyone has an assignment and a role and something to do. And with receivers, they have routes. And it's the quarterback knows those routes and knows exactly what each player is going to do. So he actually knows beforehand, before the snap, where that guy is going to be. So I think it is possible to find him. I'm with you.
I did find the quote from Jerod Mayo about Chukwuma Okorafor. Someone said, with Okorafor leaving the team, did that surprise you at all? How do you describe your conversations with him? Jerod Mayo said, I had a conversation with Chooks, and it had nothing to do with football and it had everything to do with just checking on him as a man. It was a good conversation. We'll see what happens tomorrow. It would be pretty funny if he pulled a George Costanza and just showed up on Monday, right?
Oh, hello, everyone. I'm going to do this at the end of our podcast because our heads are so wildly. Nope.
You look tall.
Ready? There we go.
Oh, wow. There we go.
We've done that an hour ago.
Yeah. Should have done that a while ago. But
yeah.
It'd be fun, right?
You know that Larry David really did that at SNL.
Yeah.
He blew it up, quit, and he just came back the next day.
How many teams do you think have had players placed on the exempt/left team list 2 years in a row? Because that happened with the Patriots with Matt Corral last year as well.
Yeah, that was why. Where's Matt? I don't know.
I think, yeah. I put out there that Chukwuma Okorafor had at least spoken to the team before he left the team. And I said that's different from the Matt Corral situation where he left without notice. People seemed like real confused why I made that distinction. And the distinction was made because like people were straight up concerned about Matt Corral last season.
Right.
And when Chooks was placed on the left squad list, I saw some initial reactions being like, hopefully everything's okay with him, blah, blah, blah. And like, just kind of want to put that out there that like, he's fine. He informed the team he was leaving. He didn't just not show up to work one day, which I think is a distinction.
Sure.
A difference.
I'm with you.
All right. Before we go, you had a comment about corn during the broadcast, a tweet that they were playing corn in between.
Yep.
That reminded me that your coworkers asked why you don't like 311 in my weekly mailbag. And I just want to say that I stand with Mike and that 311 is not a good band.
Well, what's cool, like, they're like okay most of the time. They got that sort of clean guitar tone, and the singer's kind of bland, but it's like I get their sound. And then just that guy comes in and starts rapping like an idiot, and you're like, who is this for? He's so bad. Like who's like, this dude's got some good flow.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Did you? Couldn't be me.
No, I mean I was never 311 fan, but they were fine. Except for that guy. Have you listened to the new Blink-182 basically released an EP, for lack of a better word? It's just a deluxe version with 8 new songs on it.
I listened to the first 3. I have not got around to listening to the next 5. How are they?
I have a shocking take for you as you get chopped up again. I'm waiting till there you are. I think they're kick-ass and I like them.
Wow.
Can you believe it?
That's the take.
That's it.
I listened to another podcast that like did a tier rankings of like every rock band that's existed since like the 60s. And that podcast took 3 hours. So we will never be doing that because I don't want to do that for 3 hours. But I did my own tier ranking, and I found out that I think that most rock bands are somewhere between decent and okay, and that there aren't a lot of great ones. I think you're losing me again.
We have Blink above 311, so we'll start
100%.
and end there. Yep.
Blink is above 311. Korn and 311 might be on the same tier for me.
I might go Korn. Korn had some bangers in the 90s. I don't know what to tell you. The Family Values tour, Limp Bizkit. I had the CD.
Definitely heavier than 311. There's more Korn parts for me. I think the Korn during Woodstock 99 with the whole crowd just like moving at the same time is just like a really cool clip also. So that alone pushes them above 311 for me.
Got the Life was what played today, by the way. I'm not sure why, but whatever.
Throwback to WAAF days.
Now, you could also, the things I said about the rapper for 311, you could also say about Jonathan Davis when he did his not sure what was going on there, but you know what? It made him a lot of money. You got to stand out.
Well, that will do it for the Pat's Chat podcast. Subscribe to us on wherever you get your podcasts. You can go to YouTube, subscribe on there, rate, review, subscribe, do all those fun things. And we will be back with you guys maybe for like a Pat's Chat mini in the middle of the week to discuss the Jets game. If not, then we will definitely be back with you guys on Friday morning. But I think we can pull off this middle of the week thing because I don't have a lot of work to do this week.
I think I gotta buy a new microphone because this.
You're buzzing.
I can't be.
The boys are buzzing.
I'm probably gonna get electrocuted. So, I'm taking recommendations on USB mics.
There we go. All right. Bye, guys.